Coming to you live from Provo, Utah. This is the Godzilla podcast. Shit. That's not how I was supposed to do it.
You're good. We're good.
Do you want to restart or just go for it?
Let's just go for it.
Tell me about the size of Godzilla's brain versus the size of an ape brain.
Isn't it like a marble or like a pea? It's very tiny.
I think so.
The science in this movie is pseudo beyond pseudo. It's not fake movie science. It's just it's belittling to the audience. It's belittling to the Godzilla audience.
This is the commentary for the American version of King Kong versus Godzilla. And I am excited to get this started, Drew.
I am too.
Did you have a couple things to cover before we go into it?
We want to have a contest.
We want to have a contest.
Let's have a contest. Let's have a contest. So we're looking for iTunes reviews. We're having a few episodes out, or we have a few episodes out now. Dude, we're new. We have 5 or 6 episodes.
I know this.
Yeah. So we have several out, and we're getting some responses on forums and comments on the website. Mm-hmm. So we figure whether it's positive or not, we just want feedback. We want stars, ratings. Give us a review. What we're willing to give you for a review, whether it's a good review or a bad review. It's the review we like the most.
Okay. We should let this go for 4 weeks.
Yes.
Okay. And whoever gives us the most meaty review.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. A review with something in it
the
where
most
we
in-depth.
Yeah, they can tell you've listened to the podcast, giving us tips for bettering ourselves, kissing our ass a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Just a little brown nosing. Goes a long way. And what you will receive, drum roll, we have them sitting right here, except I'll buy a new one for you. The Godzilla 1954 action figure. He looks cool.
Yeah, he does.
Does he look like the Godzilla from Godzilla 1954?
He looks pretty close.
Yeah, he looks
pretty cool.
Yeah, we bring him to every single podcast. He oversees us, brings us good luck. We rub his belly. We don't actually do that.
I kind of twist his arms around.
He's fully posable in all of his Godzilla glory. I'm sure that the suit they used in that movie is as posable as this action figure, because that guy couldn't move.
Well, in that case, maybe it's more posable.
Yes. The guy couldn't bend his arms. So there you go.
So yeah, get on iTunes, leave us a review, and then let us know on Twitter or on the forums, which there might be some website changes in the next little bit, so just beware about that. Yeah, let us know on Twitter once you posted the review so that we can know who to talk to about getting an address so we can send a little action figure. Yeah, it should be fun. Yeah. I'm excited to see some reviews for this brand new show. You can tweet me at Joseph DeGollier. That's JosephDegolyer.
You can tweet me at Drew Daybell, DrewDaybell, or at Gojira Jaeger, Jaeger.
Are you ready for King Kong vs. Godzilla American Edition?
Yes.
Okay. Some of you guys with the Blu-ray might have a little problem since it's one of those movies that just plays as soon as it starts. And it doesn't really have a main menu, but I have paused it on 000. And I'm ready to press play. And so are you, right? Right? Mm-hmm. Get ready.
We got to be very careful with this PS4 controller. It's super sensitive.
It's sensitive. If the cat gets you, we're screwed. I don't know if you guys can hear that cat behind us, but he might be making a couple more appearances on the show later on. Okay, I am going to press the play button in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, yeah, there we go. There's
Ignition.
A little pause for a second. All right, so
what do you think, just straight out of the gate, what do you think about the inclusion of new footage in this?
I don't think there's ever been a point in any of these Godzilla movies in which I have been okay with new footage being added in.
It's not necessary.
It's not. But every time that I watch the American versions first, which has been all but one time.
Yes.
And that was with Godzilla Raids Again. I always think that there's always a part of me that goes, oh, was this actually just part of it? Even as little as 2 years ago when I saw Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla.
Yeah.
I legitimately was unsure whether or not they had added that footage as the American cut or if it were the original Japanese version.
And you had viewed both or just the American version?
I've still only viewed the American version. Okay,
so you're saying that you didn't find it unnecessary. You just thought it would fit for the Japanese audience. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, so I think part of the American footage being added in, as far as it ruining it for us, is because we watched the Japanese first.
Well, okay, that is definitely a valid point. But I would like to stress to the viewers that from Joe and my perspective, the Japanese versions so far have all been better. The inclusion of the American footage in the American version, it's not necessary. It prolongs the movie at a boring pace, and also it detracts from the story it's not necessary to detract from the Japanese version.
They have interesting characters in the original King Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah.
And they take away a lot of the time that we got to spend with the characters. And then instead they add this newsreel footage thing where the UN news guy is talking to a 35 millimeter color camera.
I know, because they
being broadcast via satellite, which I don't even know how the technology was back in the day as far as satellite communications. But anyway, it's so out of place after watching the Japanese version, and it is so
extremely
boring.
Oh, it's bored to tears. It's men looking at the camera.
We were literally crying 30 minutes into this movie. I'm so bored.
Well, we were
bored to tears.
I felt a little grumpy because it was seriously, we have to just watch these guys talk.
We got to do this.
So what I wanted to say was at the beginning of this, the Japanese version, so what they're showing with the spinning globe is the TV show that this pharmaceutical company is talking about. They show us the show. They show us how I didn't find it boring. I mean, I guess it was, but we watched a little bit of it. It was just a science show. Then science shows are meant to be super flashy, I guess. But then one of our main characters, the director of the pharmaceutical company, says, "My show's, it's too boring. We have to add all this stuff to it to make it, or have a new show, basically make it more appealing to people."
Right.
He mentions it once in this American version. He's like, our shows are too boring. They're drawing in low ratings. But you're not shown how the show is boring. He just kind of flippantly mentions it.
We see this UN broadcast report and we go, there's no way that it could be more boring than this.
There's no way. And also,
we're watching a guy eat a fruit here.
He's weird tomatoes.
I think he's just looking at it, then he puts it back in the thing.
They're painkillers. Is that it?
They are actually painkillers.
Okay.
And so when they bring King Kong in, they're giving him a shitload of painkillers.
And we were joking about that in the Japanese version. We were like, I don't remember what it was or what it's supposed to be. Is it a painkiller? They talk about it being a narcotic.
They talk about it being medicine.
Yeah.
And here they talk about it strictly as a narcotic.
Yep.
I'm not sure if they say it's a narcotic in the Japanese version, but they definitely say it in the American version.
It's a narcotic. We drug up King Kong in this movie.
Well, what also that kind of adds a little bit of confusion as to why do they have to do the dance and play the drums to get King Kong to go to sleep? It's obviously it's the drugs doing it.
It's a ritual of an indigenous tribe, yeah.
Well, here's the thing with the ritual. They should bring in some of the scientific method into their thing and go, okay, the controlled variable or the control group is the medicine. We give him the medicine. And then the variable is, let's not dance.
Let's not dance and see if he's knocked out for as long as when we did dance.
Let's not do the drums and let's not sing. And just knock off how much work you have to do. And then you realize, oh, we just need to give him painkillers when he wants them. Kind of like my old moms.
Teaching an indigenous tribe the scientific method.
Yeah, that's all it takes, man. This could be way easier, right?
You don't have to do
You don't have to do all this to calm.
Going and having fun. milling down food or doing something instead of this. Yeah. Wasting your energy.
So we had to have that American footage so that we could get twice the amount of looking at the map to see where everything is in the movie.
Oh, yeah. So they are definitely less fleshed out characters in this American version, our main characters, but they're still, I think there's enough of them. There's certainly more to do with the characters, and I care about them more. I don't care about them much, but I do care about them more than the characters in Godzilla Raids Again. Those characters were non-existent characters.
That comparison, yes, I will agree. So I do have some extra facts written down here or underlined on certain
articles,
website encyclopedias.
Wikipedia.
Anyway,
let's talk the movie.
So they apparently Toho, to get the rights to King Kong, apparently paid $200,000 for the rights to the King Kong character.
So I don't remember or know about the success of this movie. Did it pay off? At least it obviously paid off enough that they're doing yearly sequels after this movie. This is the beginning of the yearly Godzilla movie.
I believe it paid off. It was Toho's second biggest hit.
Yes, we mentioned that.
So, I assume it paid off. So this is where the money gets all confusing to me. Because $200,000 in today's money would equal in today's money. Let's see how many yen. Looks like 2 million yen, right? Let's see.
A lot of yen. A lot less US dollars.
20 million yen.
You know the conversion rates of that better than me.
It's an extra 2 zeros.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's easy.
A couple years ago it was different, but that's about where it is right now.
Gotcha.
But the budget was only 5 million yen, so the conversion rate in my head and where they were back in the 60s is way different. So, because that would be 4 times the apparent budget for the film. So whatever I said last week about the budget of the film being only $50,000, it is apparently very inaccurate. I knew it kind of was last week, but
it didn't feel right.
I was still wondering, exactly how much this movie cost in today's money.
So for just a moment to talk about what we're viewing, I actually appreciate in this movie. So one thing I think the American version does better is they edit together fully the submarine sequence where they show the Americans crashing into the iceberg. Mm-hmm. In the Japanese version, it's cut to our main characters, then to the submarine, back to the characters, submarine. It kind of goes back and forth. You just watch the whole submarine sequence go through. They crash into it. I don't think it shows Godzilla initially, but he bursts out. It shows the mountains start to crumble. Then it shows us something else, but
it gets to the point a lot quicker, I guess.
Oh yeah, and I guess they had to because of all the footage with the news reporter they shove into this movie.
I didn't mind the back and forth cutting in the original King Kong, though.
I didn't mind it either, but I prefer this because I didn't notice it in the original.
So, so just like the original Godzilla, they didn't use stop motion, which they apparently once again toyed with doing in this film. They toyed with the idea of doing a stop motion.
And I believe there's no way in doing stop motion that they could do a yearly movie because it takes a long time to do that.
Yeah, I think the average, last time I heard, the average stop motion movie took about 4 years to make.
Oh, okay.
And that's, that's with 20 people working just day in, day out.
With it just in your head, imagining this. Would you like to see a fully stop motion Godzilla movie?
I guess it would be a higher visual quality to see it that way, but Godzilla to me is the suit actor.
Exactly. That's
and it would be really weird. I mean, we get a couple stop motion effects here. And I got the name. Oh yeah, they were animated by a guy named Koichi Tanaka. But otherwise it is just suitmation.
Yeah.
And so it feels right. Stop motion would just not feel right as a fan of Godzilla.
Yes, I fully agree.
Just like I thought a CG Godzilla wouldn't work either, but actually I liked the way they did the American one.
We're talking about the 2014 Godzilla movie, of course. Yes, I enjoyed it too, and I didn't even think about that going into the theater, that it wouldn't be a guy in a suit or leaving. I didn't.
Of course it wouldn't be a guy in a suit.
Well, but for some of the scenes, you never know. Not a guy in a suit, but like a prosthetic top and then not showing the full body. But yeah, they did a good job.
They did. I do recommend, by the way, guys, I don't know if you can get a Blu-ray version of the Japanese movie, but the Blu-ray version of the American Godzilla is fantastically cleaned up.
Yes.
And it's like watching a completely different movie the week that we watched this. Like the squid scenes, the animation, the blue screen, like everything just looks so much better in Blu-ray. And so I don't know, maybe it was just a bad transfer on the DVD that we saw. I mean, it definitely was a bad transfer, but the Blu-ray is man, it breathes new life into the movie.
Oh, totally. I actually just watched Army of Darkness, the Blu-ray version.
Yeah.
And it didn't look any better than I remember seeing it on DVD or on TV. But for this movie, the Blu-ray version is worth it.
Well, I mean, this was like a big budget thing. Of course it would, like, on its original iteration, it's going to look good.
Yeah, they took their time cleaning it up for the Blu-ray release.
I do want to say that... there is kind of a lot of confusion dealing with, digital HD versus film versus 4K.
Yeah.
It's all a lie.
I was about to say, here's our film expert about to delve into some of this for
the
us.
megapixels bullshit. It's all a lie.
Megapixels, okay.
Why
is it all a lie?
I once had this argument. I guess it was an argument, but he didn't really know what he was talking about. So, where the guy, I was talking to a guy that said that the Lord of the Rings would look, the reason why the Lord of the Rings didn't look so good on Blu-ray is because it wasn't filmed in HD. It was filmed on film or on DVD. He said, not Blu-ray. And I guess he hadn't gotten a Blu-ray player yet. And I had to explain to him that actually film, it's on a chemical level where the light is coming in and changing the chemicals around onto the actual film itself.
Yeah.
So there is no resolution for film. You can't say that 2K resolution or 1080p or 4K is better than film because it's actually impossible. There's no resolution for film itself. So that's one layer of this argument. Another layer of this argument is that they put out these Blu-rays that are in 1080p.
Yeah. Usually
coming from a digital transfer of a film onto like a 2K sized file into 1080p. So it's actually the quality is being degraded every time. The human eye can't really tell if an image is in 1080p or in 4K or on film just by a still frame, it's just there on a screen. Like, your eye cannot actually tell that your iPhone is in 4K.
Yeah, exactly. The technology I've heard for like newer iPads, they've probably gotten to this with the iPhone as well now. The resolution that they've maxed out on or whatever on their iPad, blah, 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 it's as clear and sharp as the human eye can possibly perceive. So we can go further and further with our technology of making it look better, but it really doesn't matter when you get to the point where all your eye can perceive is that.
So here's the thing.
Yes.
The real difference between all of these technologies is the color space. So the human eye can perceive, imagine a plane, I guess. Okay. The human eye can see 90%, like, the whole plane is all colors ever, all types of light, whatever. The human eye can only see a section of that. Film can see a little less. and then we go into let's say a red, which is a type of camera that they use now.
Yeah.
Digital camera that can only see so much, a little less, and then your Canon T3i can only see like a tiny bit. It's the color. It's what colors each thing can see. So resolution is not actually that important. So when you're talking about old films, they were using film, which was, it's as good as you can get as long as the film is a good stock and well taken care of, which this
clean.
would have been. And it's not actually like a movie now is not technically going to have any higher resolution or anything like that. It's just about them taking care of the film negative before transferring it into a digital space. It was a long explanation for just that little thing.
No, but you speaking about that, I hadn't thought about this until now. So the time gap between the original Gojira and this, less than 10 years. But how much better does this film look? Like, how much cleaner did they keep this film?
They actually, this film wasn't taken care of that well, but and we'll get into that a little bit. Well, it's in color and widescreen, so it's kind of hard to tell the difference. I know there's a lot of scratches and there's a lot of dust on the negative of the original Godzilla movie.
Yes, and the hair,
and that has to do. The hair is something else. That has to do with where they're storing all the film at, and so when they bring it back to a digital image, there's all that dust on the film negative. And I actually think there was a comment somewhere talking about how when they originally edited Godzilla, like the environment that they were working in to edit that original film was apparently not a very good environment for film negatives.
Oh, okay. So it was during the editing process. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like 35 millimeter film is 35 millimeter film. How well it reacts to color has to do with, the type of film stock, and that's a chemical process that I don't understand. I don't think anybody will now on.
Yeah. No necessity for that knowledge.
But, I think we said this before, the black and white is actually like the sharpest type of film that you'll get. It has to do with how it gets light.
Yeah.
But like you'll have a sharper image in a black and white than you ever would with a color. So it's a complicated question when you ask, doesn't this look like so much better? I think the transfer is better, but obviously they had problems with the original Godzilla as far as like the editing space that they were in. But I mean, I can't say that the original footage didn't look just as crisp.
Yeah.
In the original Godzilla, but that's hard to tell.
Eventually, we'll pay that $50-something for the Criterion version of Gojira, where it's supposed to be even more cleaned up.
But a lot of our experience having to do with these old movies is having to do with like them digitally transferring it from the negative, so that they can put it on Blu-ray. And that in itself, it depends on how well they took care of the negative or how well they did the transfer. That will affect our viewing experience. This, I think, is a very good transfer. So I'm very happy with how this movie looks.
As boring as the content of the movie may be at times, yes, it looks great.
There's a lot of things here watching the Blu-ray I didn't notice before. Like there were some compositing shots with these villagers on the outside. There was obviously a painted a matte painting background.
Yeah, and we didn't notice that at all.
Shots. Didn't at all. And then there's of course the big pile of berries, which I missed before. And
we were watching it just as closely as, and we watched it twice, like we always do. We watch these films one week, next week we record the commentary.
Mm-hmm. So apparently, the suit actors, Soichi Hirose, which is King Kong.
Okay.
And Haruo Nakajima, that's his name. He did Godzilla. Apparently, they were given free reign to choreograph their own moves.
Okay, maybe that helps to clarify the his flip of Godzilla, like completely over himself. He lifts him and flips him over. The King Kong flips Godzilla.
That crazy shit?
Yeah, the one that is not aided by any sort of a trick, whatever. Yeah.
That's crazy.
One more time, the name Haruo.
just lost it on the paper. Haruo Nakajima.
So this will be
Nakajima.
a very interesting note to our listening audience. Haruo Nakajima is credited as being in Gojira. He was Godzilla, the suit actor.
Right.
Godzilla Raids Again. This movie. Several more that we'll see. But also, before this movie, we have the standalone Rodan and Mothra films. So he was credited as being Rodan as well. And then what I saw was that he was credited for being Mothra. We haven't seen Mothra, just the standalone film. We'll try to get a hold of that, and we'll view it in the future and do our podcast. I do not know what that would be like being a suit actor for the Moth, because at least when we see Godzilla versus
up in the air and flap your wings.
Yeah. Well, it would be similar to the suit actor for King Kong in this film playing Ghidorah, because he has his arms close to his side.
Oh, they got to walk at least.
Exactly. Well, he has to walk, but he has his arms close to his side. His actual head is up in the chest, and the three heads, they're just puppeted,
Right.
So he's just trying to not fall over. That's what he's doing, period. Like in his shuffling. Oh god, that would be hard. I would be interested in seeing the Mothra standalone film to see how those effects worked, and if it could, was a suit actor, because what I was reading oh yeah, we have to talk about this really quick.
Go ahead. We'll backtrack. The audience watching the movie at the same time knows what we're talking about.
Smoking children. Anyway, A.G. Tsuburaya, the special effects director, he talked about of these films. Cat.
He didn't say anything about a cat, Drew.
There was a cat that just jumped up on me. He talked about how I read about how this effects director, A.G. Tsuburaya, he was willing to do what it took to produce even new effects. He was willing to take risks, even if that meant he was doing something on a film that didn't look totally believable. He tried to do it as well as he could in the film, but in his future films, he just would try it again, try new. He would just try and try and try. Wasn't afraid to take these big risks. What I heard was that Mothra from his standalone movie to Godzilla vs. Mothra looks a lot better. So perhaps we're going to see a Mothra suit actor in the standalone film, and then we'll see. I really don't think it's a suit actor in Godzilla vs. Mothra.
It's suit actor sized.
Oh my gosh.
But, I have no idea whether or not Mothra is a suit actor, and there are audience members at home that know whether or not it's a suit actor.
Comment.
Yeah.
Post in the forums. Get this discussion going.
We'll find out, though.
And we'll talk about it.
A few differences in the actually let's talk about this. The cigarette smoking scene.
Our main heroes that we're supposed to be cheering for, what do they say to that kid?
Are we really supposed to be cheering for these journalists?
I don't know, man. They're guiding us through the story, and they're into this film. We're supposed to relate to them. I don't know.
Okay. Well, yeah, they're they give out cigarettes to the natives, and the kid takes two cigarettes, and then they're like, wait, and then the mother takes one, and the kid still has a cigarette.
And I swear they say, just make sure you don't do it around your parents. Like, it's okay to smoke, kid. It's okay to be addicted to nicotine at the age of 6.
Well, it is this 1963 film. Maybe not so much on the restriction of the children smoking.
No.
Something tells me.
Addictive forming habits when you're young. You got the nicotine shakes when you're in elementary school. Oh, man. Well, I guess he wouldn't be in elementary school. He's an islander.
Yeah, it'd be an elementary hunting party.
Education.
I don't know.
One thing for me in this American version and we're watching it right now, I'm about to explain, that cleared it up for me was that the girlfriend, who's the sister of one of the main characters, she thinks that her boyfriend died in a plane crash. That just went over my head when we were watching the Japanese version completely. I understood it in this American one.
I got it the first time. It's not super clear in either time, though.
No.
She does say, I thought, what about your plane? And he goes, it's fine.
I was fine. What are you talking about? Okay, this scientist. This scientist in this movie that the UN newscasters is interviewing, he's going to tell us that Godzilla is a hybrid. Look at that dinosaur book.
It looks like a dinosaur book I used to have as a kid.
Yeah, it's like and the pictures are huge. This is not a scientific journal.
It's a T-Rex and a Stegosaurus.
Godzilla is a hybrid between a T-Rex and a Stegosaurus.
Lies.
It was never, ever canon.
You know, how do they know to call him Godzilla first? How do they know to call King Kong King Kong? Unless they were both actually in the same universe, like the original King Kong that was in New York City.
I don't remember. In the original King Kong film, do the natives call him King Kong?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. King Kong.
They weren't Japanese. Not like these islanders.
Foreign film. Yeah.
But yeah, this is the scientist who says that Godzilla has a tiny little brain and that King Kong has a nice large head.
They carry on the notion from the Japanese film as well to this that King Kong poses a bigger threat because he is a real animal. And he has a big brain. Godzilla, on the other hand. Okay, I argue that Godzilla being... So if he is mindless or just as mindless, destructive, whatever, he's still able to destroy just as much as King Kong. That might mean because King Kong has more of a conscience or a brain or something, he might actually pull away from the violence. And he does. When he's caught on fire by King Kong, by Godzilla's atomic breath, King Kong's like, I should retreat for a little bit. And Gyrus, on the other hand, a fellow dinosaur, he gets killed very quickly.
Then you get like the human or ape human error of, rape, which happens later on in the film, the King Kong rape of Godzilla. Literal.
when we're
lifting up his tail while Godzilla's trying to get away.
Scratching away on the mountain. And okay, it makes a little bit more sense because why is he lifting up his tail, curling it towards him? Because later on, after he's superpowered, after being superpowered by the thunderstorm, King Kong seems like he's knocked unconscious, but he comes back to life, is rejuvenated by this electrical storm, which is somehow a superpower as well. He grabs Godzilla by the tail, does what he should have done in that rapey situation, and just swings him around. Instead, King Kong's ineffectively curling his tail forward as King Kong's like, no!
Godzilla's.
Yeah, Godzilla's scraping away.
So, here's something I just noticed.
Yeah.
I never noticed before that there were the berries with the painkillers.
Yep.
They're all over the trees around him. So my confusion is, why isn't King Kong just like...
Oh, yeah.
Why does he come to town where they liquefied it? Why, he should be like going around like a panda all day on these trees.
Constantly.
Crunch, crunch.
Well, exactly. Crunch, crunch, 24-hour nap. Crunch, crunch, 24-hour nap.
He's slowly starving. Withering away.
Oh, that's why his face looks so emaciated in like the up-close shots where he just looks... Oh.
Yeah, so... apparently they had a really hard time coming up with a King Kong suit that AG Super Ryo was okay with. And the first suit, in fact, was rejected for being too fat. It had long legs that gave King Kong an almost cute look.
Okay.
So, but this is what they settled on. They settled on derp face.
Yep. And also, the quality of this Blu-ray is so cleaned up that you can see this reflection in the suit actor's eyes for King Kong when it's the faraway shots, not the close-up of his ugly face. Mm-hmm. It's like a glassy... I don't know. It's like they have some sort of glass thing for him to look through for the eyes. The suit actor's actually looking through the eyes.
I'm going to have to look at that.
Yeah, look really close. Okay. You can see it in several times.
Yeah, King Kong has taken his sweet time to show up in this movie. I've noticed. Noticing this time around doing the commentary, I'm like, where is the freaking monster?
Hey, I think they did the suspense build up better than the Japanese version, yes.
So apparently the King Kong suit that we're making fun of, the derp suit, derp face. I don't know. Actually, like the suit with the guy,
Face
I don't
doesn't
think
look
the
terrible.
Two-Face looks too bad, but it's just the face shots. I think they
Yeah.
probably had a separate thing for the face. Not 100% sure. But those
almost
shots
positive.
he just doesn't look very
They
good.
don't look good.
Apparently they redressed him as a giant monkey, that suit, for giant monkey Goro for episode 2 of the television show Ultra Q.
So you're saying they use the suit again?
They used the suit again in TV.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would be interesting to see.
So the second episode of Ultra Q. And it was reused for water scenes, although they gave him a new head for King Kong Escapes. So it's the same suit.
Ooh, I'm going to
For
be
water
interested in
scenes,
watching
I guess.
that eventually. We want to watch King Kong Escapes. When we do, have to look for that
It'd be
new
great if the
head.
kid right now just took a swig of the painkiller.
Being a child and like several giant clay pots of that, knock out King Kong, a King Kong sized beast. I think like a sip of that. Because when they give you narcotics nowadays, it's in like a liquid gel or like this tiny little amount. That kid takes his big spoon. He's out. He's dead. His heart is stopped. That kid just died. Now it doesn't matter whether the octopus crushes the hut or not.
How are the natives here like active in any way with
Oh, that's true. Their village is surrounded by it. Well, you're right.
There's apparently my sister lived in Djibouti at the military base there because
Okay.
her ex-husband was a diplomat or of some kind. I don't know, something for the U.S. of A. Anyway, apparently they
USA.
had like a wild plant there that the people that live there would be on all day long. So like they have some real like drug issues in Djibouti, and it's just like their culture is just people laying around doing nothing in that country.
Have you ever heard of kava?
I don't know.
Okay, never mind. We won't go.
Anyway,
Or what?
that's what I'd imagine though. Is I'd imagine all these villagers. I don't know why. If they were just surrounded by the berries of sleep of nappy time, why would they?
Well, they have
They seem so active.
they have the uppers now of the the cigarettes to get them
maybe
going.
I think are cigarettes uppers?
Nah, but they like mellow you out at least, calm your nerves.
Well, that's not an upper.
Exactly.
That's a downer.
That's a in betweener. So we're saying this from two people that do not do drugs.
That don't smoke. Yeah, it's right.
Yeah, it's a. So again, we have Ishiro Honda returning to direct King Kong versus Godzilla, not this American edit, but the footage they use. There's a noticeable difference in quality, right?
Yeah. We talked about that last time. His direction is just much more polished.
More cinematic.
Cinematic, yes. I agree. Seems to be a lot more stuff going on in the frame. He seems like he seems to be a lot more detailed in his direction of movement and stuff like that, and camera placement, as opposed to the Oda guy who directed the last movie, Godzilla Raids Again, who, I think he did a serviceable job, but he was obviously a for-hire director.
Yes, and
the movie was put together really quickly, but
in this run of Godzilla films that we'll be watching from now on, so we're getting to these yearly Godzilla films, I'm interested in seeing the ones that, because many of them were directed by Ishiro Honda, several aren't, and I'm interested in seeing
the stylistic differences between them, seeing if you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know, Caleb Schweiss, who hosts Ultima Final Fantasy with me, we watched The Sopranos, and we're almost done with it, thank goodness.
Okay.
And there was one episode that was directed by one of the actors on the show.
Okay.
And I think we both saw who was directing it, and we tried to watch the movie, we tried to watch the show thinking, hey, this is going to be different. This is going to be interesting because it's directed by this other guy. And
it'll have a different feel.
No difference.
Oh, okay.
I think because it was a television show.
Yeah.
And usually with television shows, they have the cinematographers, and they kind of know what to do with the camera because they have a very specific look to look like all the other stuff.
Yeah. They want to keep the continuity.
They're also shot really quickly, so they just kind of do regular coverage unless otherwise needed. And the actors know their characters, so they know what they're doing. So the director doesn't really do anything in TV. And I'd say you can see the same issues with the Marvel movies now. That directors, even Joss Whedon, there's not really a stylistic difference between any of those movies.
No,
not a major one anyway. But you can tell between Ishiro Honda and the other guy here that there is a difference in quality. But whether or not that's a cha-ching kind of difference, like we got a lot more special effects, model makers, and all the stuff, or if it's a actual filmmaking difference, I don't know. I think you can tell a stylistic difference between the first Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, though.
Yes.
And those are all three different directors, and you can tell that they're each different in some ethereal way. There's just a different mind behind the camera placement.
Yeah,
it's kind of a weird thing to talk about because it's not like a physical difference.
Exactly, and you almost want to assume, it's in your head that they're different directors, so you're looking for it. I think you can just feel that there's a difference. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
that it's not just an assumption, and it's not just your mind playing whatever on you. Yeah. Okay, we're about to see the So is that like a
painkiller? Good.
It looks like it's a puppet when it's the up close.
Yeah, I think it probably is a puppet.
Okay.
So that octopus that we just saw, I said a kind of racist joke. To me, it wasn't a race thing. It's a culture thing. The Japanese eat a lot of seafood, so they would. And I've seen Japanese movies where the live octopus was going to be eaten for dinner that night, so for me it wasn't a racist thing, but I think some people might misconstrue it that way. It is what's a word for a joke that makes fun of a specific culture?
Racist joke.
I don't think of race and culture being the same necessarily.
But you were right.
I was right.
Go on.
Okay, they used 4 octopi for the octopus in the King Kong scene where he fights the octopus, except for when the octopus is on his head. That's obviously not a real octopus.
No.
It's something wrapped in it's something saran wrapped, it almost looks like. But there were 4 octopi. 3 of them were set free, and the 4th became Eiji Tsuburaya's dinner. Well, for real.
He did direct the effect, so he deserves the prize.
Yeah.
I wonder if he also got this woman as a prize at the end.
I don't think so.
I doubt it. He was okay. One thing that I found interesting reading. Okay, I'm gonna plug this book, and it's a cool one. It's called Mushroom Men. It's called Mushroom Clouds. That's part of the title. Mushroom Clouds and Mushroom Men. Yada yada yada. Something something. Ishiro Honda. Where you're going to be able to find what the actual title is, you just need to know that beginning.
Yada.
Where you're going to find the title of the book is, if you look up Godzilla on Wikipedia, it's the first one on the bibliography. Again, Mushroom Clouds and Mushroom Men, something, Ishiro Honda. Started reading it on my Kindle. So there's a lot. It goes in depth about Ishiro Honda. Forgot his first name again. The producer of these films, Tanaka. Then Eiji Tsuburaya, and I'm assuming it goes into the sound coordinator as well, the composer of these films.
Okay.
Eiji Tsuburaya was born in 1901 or 1900. So at this point, doing the effects for this film, this guy's 60. This guy is old.
Are you serious?
Yeah. He died in 1970.
Jesus, dude.
Yeah, but what's going behind this, what you're seeing, and he was in the film industry for a long time. Yeah, revelation to Joe's mind. And I'm going to double check this. I could be wrong.
Dude is old.
But that's what I read through the book, and I'm assuming, he had a prolific career in movies, and at this point, what we're seeing in his effect is a vast knowledge. He's gained wisdom. I think it said at his peak, he had 160 special effects technicians working under him. So this guy knew what he wanted, was willing to. Oh man, these brains. He's willing to put in the work and the effort to put it all together. Suit actors, full sets, these like pools of water that the ocean that Godzilla and other monsters are rising out of. Mm-hmm. So much stuff. And yeah, he had it all under his belt. He knew what he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah. He's very aged pro. He probably got a lot of practice, as well as the other people on these movies, on those American war films.
And we're getting to see
World War II.
Some amazing Japanese special effects.
So there was a separate head apparently, and a static, like a huge prop of King Kong's hand apparently was built for when he grabs the girl.
Gotcha. And probably also when the huge prop I can just know was used when the boyfriend or brother comes to like grab her out of the hand. There's just a shot where she's in the hand, mm-hmm. and he comes and runs behind the hand,
right? Big
grabs
hand.
her.
I was at Universal Studios Orlando, and they have a King Kong ride or whatever there, and inside there's kind of an exhibit with King Kong stuff in it, and there is a giant hand that you can like have your picture taken in, like a huge one. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
At least that was when I was a kid. So I don't know if it's still there, but I heard they had a fire at the King Kong exhibit.
Was it King Godzilla that started this fire on King Kong with his breath?
Maybe. There hadn't been a Godzilla movie for a little while, and Godzilla's pretty pissed off.
I know. Why do I keep saying King Kong when I mean to say Godzilla?
I don't know.
You just did it too.
Did I really?
Yeah, I think we have stars in our eyes for King Kong. He's our American hero against God. Even though we love Godzilla, when it comes to Japan versus America. So
the only war Japan ever lost was World War II. FYI.
I was about to say, have they been in other wars? I don't know. I don't know my history.
Yeah, quite a bit. Against China and the Mongols and stuff like that.
No, I meant recent wars, but yes,
they were seen as they viewed themselves and their emperor. At least this is what I've been told, and it's probably not 100% accurate. As like a blessed land.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's because they've never been invaded until we invaded them. So in a way, yes, America.
Joe,
so maybe like this is like a reflection on a world where maybe King Kong is. I don't know.
let's
I'm not going to go into like a political territory here, but
Well, hey, we're making King Kong versus Godzilla political, where the original King Gojira was, political movie.
That's true. It was a very political movie, and this one might be too, but I don't.
Less so.
I don't know.
They're so in this movie,
meaning behind this one,
they're starting to turn towards gearing this movie to children, to younger audiences.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's noticeable.
So for this American version, they still used a lot of the original music tracks. I noticed they did have some other music though in the movie.
The thing I noticed and appreciated was the tension building tracks throughout. Just whenever it's like suspenseful or tension building, I enjoyed the way it sounded, but I like the Japanese music more. It was pleasing to me to hear the suspenseful, like, violins or whatever in the American version, because that's what I'm used to seeing in films. Yet in the Japanese version, I feel like whoever's doing all this composing for these Godzilla films is doing it so uniquely that I appreciate it more. It felt nice to be like,
Ifukube or Ikufube, something.
Akira Ifukube. Yes, the composer of the Godzilla films. It felt like, I know it's a suspenseful moment in this American version because I can tell it's suspenseful music, but it's got it's got a feel of its own, the composition of the music in Godzilla movies.
Well, he's a very good composer. I
Yeah.
would say he's not run of the mill. He doesn't sound like every other composer
It's
on the
so
planet.
unique, yeah.
Yeah. So John Beck apparently is the guy. He's the producer behind all this stuff, and he was the first name that we saw on the opening credits of this American version. Apparently, when they sold the script, he was given exclusive rights to produce the American version of the film. So he enlisted these dudes named Paul Mason, which sounds suspiciously like Perry Mason. No connection, but I want there to be. And Bruce Howard to write a new screenplay. And they worked with the editor, Peter Zeiner, to remove scenes. They recut others and change the sequence of a few things. I remember when we watched this American version, we were like, there's missing shit.
Yeah. Well, and here we have this added.
Yeah, and they got some other, like, they have other shit added. They're the ones who came up with the idea of inserting footage of newsreel stuff of the UN reporter commenting on what we're seeing. And that stuff was directed by a guy named Thomas Montgomery, and they shot it in 3 days, apparently.
I was about to say that had to be the hardest directing job ever. He's just a newscaster. He's a guy in a room just talking to...
Yeah.
Man.
So it's just like, okay, you say this.
Act like a news... You've seen the news, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just act like
We hired
that.
you because you looked like a newsman.
Smile nice.
So apparently they also obtained a bunch of music from a music library of older films. And so
Again, probably
I'm
why
just
it
going
just feels
to list
so...
off the names.
All right.
Because there's more films than I thought there were tracks in this movie that they took the music from. So let's get to it. Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, I love that movie.
Is that the original Black Lagoon movie?
Well, I don't know what one they've taken
I assume
it from.
that's what
but
it
that
is.
I always forget
Or
him.
is it called Creature from the... I think
He's
called
a
Creature
universal
from the-
monster. One of the
Right.
classics.
I saw that when I was a kid. Bend of the River. Who fucking knows? Untamed Frontier, The Golden Horde, Frankenstein meets the Wolf Man, which sounds interesting.
Yes.
Man-made monster, Thunder on the Hill. While the City Sleeps. Come on, these could be masterpieces you've never seen.
Yes.
Stop laughing.
Okay. But Thunder on the Hill.
Against all flags, the monster that changed the world, the Deer Slayer, as well as music. I thought Deer Hunter, like when I first read this, I was like, Deer Hunter, really? And then I'm like, wait, Deer Hunter was 77. That's impossible.
Go on.
By the way, Deer Hunter is a fantastic movie.
Is that D-E-E-R or D-E-A-R?
D-E-E-R.
Okay.
Like an actual deer.
Gotcha.
And music from the TV series Wichita Town, apparently. Almost completely replaced Ifukube's music, but, they still have some of it, I remember.
Yeah.
Through this version.
We were missing our rap-ish track, like rap-esque track that we started our last Japanese version
it's
with.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's cool, and it comes on when you see them starting to build or dig the pit for Godzilla, and Joe immediately, upon watching this the first time, started just moving back and forth. Oh,
what do they call that? What do they call that motion? Like the move with the music with your hand,
with your arm up and down.
We're so white, Drew. There's got to be some term for this.
I've never been to a rap concert or a rave, so
like
the yo
guys think yo, and you'll understand the movement that I'm talking about. Just like the downward thrust of the hand upon the downbeat.
See, and I didn't see that in that track, and Joe started doing it, and I was like, oh, that fits perfect.
Well, I'm just a musical person, Drew.
You're a musical.
So Godzilla, I think, looks really dorky in this edition, as I said in our last commentary. And apparently he had ears before.
No, yes,
and they took his ears away.
I really wanted to mention that so in this run of Godzilla films, the early ones that we've seen over and over, Godzilla vs. Mothra, Rodan, King Ghidorah's appearance, all this stuff. Yes, the differences between Godzilla are not only like, oh, the suit looks different, Godzilla looks a little different. There's actual differences with like ears. There's another one.
I got some here. Okay, they removed his ears.
Yes.
There are now 3 toes on each foot rather than 4.
Wait, I'm counting in on our Godzilla 1954 action figure.
Our
he
1954
has 4 toes.
Has 4. He has 3 in this movie apparently, and I guess we can check that later once we get a shot of him.
Yeah.
Once we get a shot of his feet. Let's see.
He's got 3 claws.
There's trees.
He's got 4 claws.
And they enlarge his dorsal fins and stuff like that, but I still think he looks really dorky from the front, at least. From the side, he looks awesome, but
yeah.
From the front, I don't really care for the way he looks in this movie.
I think they do a lot of good work with whoever was in charge of moving the tail. The tail looks cool moving around.
They actually had a separate tail piece for certain scenes in this movie.
Oh yeah, because like I mentioned,
when Godzilla attacks with his tail, like I think it's like a separate group of people working on a tail.
And he does a lot more like tail attacks than we're used to seeing Godzilla doing in movies. You gotta think though, this is the second Godzilla versus a monster movie, and really, how much of a fight would you call that versus Anguirus in Godzilla Raids Again?
Oh, it was like it was a sissy fight. It was 2 people slapping each other, basically.
They kind of wrestled on the ground.
And it didn't look that great. Luckily, these 2 guys, the suit actors here, apparently they worked for hours and hours, like working on the moves that they were gonna do.
Well, then I can see
them trying to do
that.
like actual wrestling moves, which apparently wrestling was really popular in Japan at the time. So,
well, it still is today. They have a separate WWE-esque or like the WWE over there, and it's huge. I have a girlfriend from Taiwan, and we were watching something, a WWE video game, and she's like, "Oh, this is just like over, blah blah blah." It's huge over there.
It's a Japanese production.
Yeah, it's something over there, but okay. Yes. Anyway, but.
Did you ever watch wrestling as a kid?
I watched it as a teenager, and I would like to say that it was not so much for the wrestling or the storyline. It was for babes. Wrestling.
Okay.
Babes.
All right. Because I'm in a similar camp with that. It's there's nothing else good on TV in here. There's occasionally a bikini clad woman around here.
But then, yes, when it came to the fighting, it wasn't bad.
I've never been into wrestling.
What I think is interesting is when MMA fighters go to WWE. Brock Lesnar, you know his name?
It was all fake.
No, but like, they make it fake. So the interaction between these suit actors, King Kong and Godzilla in this movie, how they, spend hours choreographing that, coming up with moves, doing whatever. I can see that because this suit actor in King Kong, he played some of the scenes in the original Gojira. I wasn't sure whether or not he was credited for it or really like he did the majority of it. He didn't. It's the same suit actor who keeps being Godzilla over and over. Haruo, hard to pronounce last name. He did the majority of it, and like through these films, they had a camaraderie. I mean, he was Anguirus as well. Our King Kong was Anguirus.
Did they really have a camaraderie, or were they just trying to expel their anger on each other?
Hey, the shots that it showed us, the photos in the behind the scenes on the classic media collection of Gojira, they were smiling with each other. I mean, the suit actors, they were, laughing. I don't know. I think they had a camaraderie. I think, because, they kept coming back and fighting against each other with these suits. But, yes, your joke. They probably took it out on each other. They vented.
So, the John Beck guy, which I keep thinking Steinbeck whenever I, look at this. I think John Steinbeck, but it's just John Beck.
Well, the
producer, the American producer. He spent on all that American stuff, on the re-edits, on the rights to the music, on the new footage. Apparently it cost only $15,500 to make this full English version.
Budget friendly. And
he sold it. He turned it around to Universal International for roughly $200,000.
Oh my goodness.
In 1963.
The story just goes on and on about this amazing turnarounds these people make off of Godzilla.
And here's
films.
Here's the thing. Universal, and it didn't actually say how much they made off of ticket sales or whether they made money off of ticket sales. That's not clear.
Okay.
But apparently they made $1.25 million via just theatrical rentals. So the movie made $1 million in profit just by theatrical rentals for Universal.
So that's theaters renting the film?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. It's an unclear term.
Yes. Because before this started, you just said rentals, and so I thought, rentals?
In the Japanese version, highest box office attendance, as we said before, to any Godzilla film. And it sold 11.2 million tickets during its original run, which ended in and remember the movie cost, what was it, it was 5 million, right? 5 million yen?
Yeah.
And it made 350 million yen in grosses.
Holy cow.
So
yeah,
Cha-ching.
Oh, yeah. That's a lot. That's a huge, yeah.
In today's money, if we grabbed those yens from back then,
grab them
and
yens,
went back into our
yens.
time machine and then went to the airport and got the cash for it, let's see, how much would that be? That'd be $3 million, $3,500,000. So that's a good chunk of change.
Here again, we're talking about King Kong walking away. Just walk away. Walk away.
Do it.
Just do. So we keep saying that. I wonder if this
Does the audience have any idea what we're talking about?
And what I'm thinking is, like, a year from now, even, are people going to remember?
The meme goes away?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, what's his name? This actor,
Shia LaBeouf.
and
did
his,
a TED Talk
Talks.
for like a minute, and he basically just said, "Do it." Like I think he was sick of people. I assume, based on what he's saying, he's sick of the TED Talks, being on this preachy thing about pursuing dreams and pursuing goals and stuff like that.
He talks about pursuing dreams and pursuing goals.
And he came in, and his TED Talk was like a minute and a half long, and all he said was, "Do it. Make your dreams come true. Just do it." And the motions he makes.
It's all an art piece. It's so much energy.
Amazing. And he does it against a green screen, so people have, for you in the future listening to this, I guess, so people have taken that video of him and have just made music videos out of it and all sorts of like awesome montages on YouTube. So
yes,
look up Shia LaBeouf "Do It" and you'll understand.
And please,
then
if we
watch King Kong versus Godzilla and see him do the little crotch hand motion that he does. I don't even know how to describe it, but
he takes his arms, pushes them forward. Yeah, I can't describe it well either. Just do it.
The crotch triangle with his hands.
Please, if we have a listener who has any sort of wonderful editing ability, do this. Take Shia LaBeouf's "Do It." Take Godzilla. Do it. To Godzilla scream. I would appreciate it.
I would too, actually.
I would endorse it.
I was thinking about doing that myself, and now a listener has to. Yeah.
Now our listeners have a chance. Beat Joe to it.
Please do, actually. I'm too lazy to
What, Joe?
I'm too lazy to just do it. Okay? I'm sorry.
So I can continue to recommend this Mushroom Clouds and Mushroom Men book just on the little bit that I've read, because it's for really anybody who's even slightly interested in these films, but interested in filmmaking, to appreciate the art that went behind these and the dedication, the men who really are behind the camera directing everything, our special effects, the composer, the producer even, and the director. What kind of a contribution they made to, what people even today still might write off as B-movie fodder, but it's not. It was an art piece. It still is. I
don't know.
It's fantasy.
I think it was still like a big
fantasy
studio kind of.
It was back then. I'm saying
movie, but there is artistry behind it. That is for sure.
What I'm saying is people looking back on it now, people nowadays looking back on it and dismissing it as, it's a silly film.
See, when you say art film, though, people think like the little independent movies that are really ethereal, like Terrence Malick type stuff.
That threw a few terms
Tree of
out
life.
there, yeah.
So, apparently, they wanted the success of this film was so big that they wanted to get King Kong on for their own series at Toho, and they were, of course, only allowed one film, which was King Kong Escapes.
Did Toho
RKO refused to have them make a series out of King Kong movies, but it was big enough of a success that this was the movie. I mean, not Raids Again and not the original Godzilla. I mean, in some way, the original Godzilla, because that led to a sequel, but Raids Again certainly didn't lead to Toho deciding to do a Godzilla movie every single year.
No, they had a 4-year gap between Raids Again and this, compared to the 6-month gap between Gojira and Godzilla Raids Again.
Can you imagine a movie coming out right now? Like a sequel to a movie coming out in 6 months?
Out of respect and dignity to the first film that came out, would refuse to see it. Be like, 6 months? No. No.
Different kind of audience back then, though. I think there was less of the fanboying.
Well, and there was no internet, so how's the information going to spread that it was made in 6 months? Yes, It's obvious that it comes out in 6 months, but people are kind of like, oh, yeah, Godzilla came out a while ago, right? How long has it been? Wow, there's another one already? Holy crap.
Now, of course, this is a long tradition in Japanese film of doing really long series and doing a lot of movies in a short amount of time.
Yes.
I think the longest running film series ever, it's either the longest running or it's one of the longest running, it's the movie series with the most movies in it.
Okay.
There was a series called Tora-san, in which this bumbling, ugly character would fall in love with a beautiful woman, and at the end of the movie, he'd be rejected. And there are these little Japanese comedy movies, and I've seen 2 of them, and they were actually pretty funny. I saw the first 2. I'm not sure how good they are 20 movies down the line.
Okay, so it sounds Pink Panther-ish. Not the premise of a Pink Panther movie, but what I'm saying is...
Yeah, kind of that
same
sort
style.
of realm of comedy. It is Japanese comedy, though, so there are things about the language and stuff that you kind of miss in translation. I had a Japanese teacher who was laughing at things. I was like, what? He's like, oh, it's this.
I've watched a lot of Japanese animated cartoons, so I know lots lost.
Anyway, it's not unfamiliar for the Japanese to just milk something. And so they looked at Godzilla and King Kong and the box office numbers, and they went, okay, once a year. And back then, I guess for them, Tora-san was 60s also. So I guess that was the thing, is just really serialized movies. And we look at 007 like it's this huge series, but 007 doesn't even have as many movies as Godzilla has.
No.
Or nearly as many movies as Tora-san.
It's getting in the 30s total with Godzilla, and having started in 54, it's the longest running, despite 2 hiatuses for Godzilla films, but yet it's not. So it's the longest running film franchise, as far as I've been able to read up on.
Is it?
Yes, from 54 to now, notwithstanding the 2 hiatuses, but it isn't the most. There haven't been the most films in the franchise.
I think it's Tora-san. I might look it up in a second, but I think it is. I do want to say about Tora-san, and I know this is a little off point. The dude who directed Tora-san, he directed all but 4 of them. Just this one dude, and the one guy that starred in it. As soon as that actor died, he went off and he made 3 masterpiece samurai movies. Serious drama. The movie Twilight Samurai, which came out in 2002.
Okay.
And I think it won the Japan Academy Prize for Best Picture, or at least it was nominated. And it's a wonderful movie. It is so not a Tora-san comedy. So I kind of feel bad for the director who made like, I don't know, like 30 something movies of Tora-san.
Yeah.
And like, and then he like made some masterpieces. I'm not even sure if he's still alive. He was pretty old when he made those movies, but that's kind of a crazy thing to me. just felt like bringing up Twilight Samurai. Go check it out if you can, if it's available for you.
Well, how I can connect that a little bit here. I was actually looking through, yes, Wikipedia articles, not the most reliable source for information yet. You know,
good.
there is information there when it's cited. Anyway, so there are awards for Godzilla films aside from the original Godzilla. There was a list of them, man.
Like special effects awards, I'm assuming?
Special effects awards, yes, mostly. But then also, like music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna... I'm pretty sure aside from the nomination, I don't think it so Gojira, the original, I believe won for special effects. Correct me if I'm wrong, but then like nominated for basically film of the year or like in its
whatever
genre.
Was the big contest back then. It's now the Japan Academy Prize, but I don't know what it was back then.
Yeah, and it didn't
You
win.
had the name of it in the first episode, so go check out that.
It didn't win for best film or best film of its genre.
Seven Samurai did, and
Yes.
honorably, by the way.
Yet it did for it did for effect honor Samurai.
Okay.
Then the next one that I saw that had, and this list didn't say whether it was a nomination or they won, which confused me. So I'm assuming they won because it didn't have the nomination for Godzilla as a movie of the year, the original Godzilla. So the next one's for Godzilla versus Mothra. So
Really?
when we're getting into the next film, I want to take a look at that list for the awards because it went on for a while, and I was thinking, wait a second, okay, Godzilla films were winning awards.
Well, I can imagine.
effects.
I would be surprised. Maybe Godzilla vs. Mothra ain't that bad. I saw it like a year ago on its Japanese version. It's actually like decent, which is. As much as I am a fan of these movies, there is one part of me that is like really critical. And then another part of me that's just like, let's have fun.
Fanboy.
And so I have to turn off the really critical part when I'm watching these movies, and everybody does.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're a kid, and then you don't actually have the critical portion. Like, it doesn't exist yet. So, like, I would be surprised, very much surprised, if it were nominated for any sort of equivalent to Best Picture or, like, an audience award for Best Picture or something like that. That'd be really surprising, but... Mothra, yeah, that's not a bad one. If in fact you are correct about that, so I guess we will check out that whatever list you were looking at.
Yeah, these awards.
Yeah.
Oh, here's it just showed the effect for that large hand you were talking about.
Yeah. So she's on a big hand, and
I'd say everything looks good on the model
projection.
except for the nails. Those nails look like
I'm gonna have to look at that.
gray painted cardboard.
I was mostly looking at her rather than the nail.
Beautiful Japanese woman.
Oh yeah, she's all right. The other girls.
She's aight.
I got my eyes set on the other actress who by now is probably dead.
Oh man,
isn't that sad?
Let's bring this full
Or is
circle.
it happy?
Yeah.
Or is it happy? Because like
She's moved on.
her and all these actors really like they will be around for at least another 100 years in an image.
Yeah, preserved in
this movie,
film.
preserved in this movie. So, it's like, she was once a beautiful woman and wasn't a skeleton.
Oh man.
Or, I guess they do a lot of, they burn people a lot there. Not alive.
Cremation.
Cremation. A lot of cremation in Japan. So, she wasn't just a pile of ash.
So I don't think with Caleb on our last episode, I don't think we definitely talked about the destruction of the Diet Building in the original Gojira film and how that was like a political statement.
Yeah, King Kong, that was a political statement, or at least the dude on YouTube said it was.
I really think it was.
This guy, where was the speech? UCLA, I think.
Okay.
And it's Godzilla in post-war Japan is what the video is called. And it's like a 1-hour talk about Godzilla and each era of Godzilla and how it has to do with the political climate in Japan at the time. But yeah, he said the Diet building was being destroyed was a big political statement from the director, and I don't know. It's the same director in this movie, and King Kong gets on the Diet building,
and then
but he barely destroys it.
Oh yeah,
the front of it, they're gonna have a few weeks of construction.
Crushes it with his butt.
Yeah.
So I can see in that though, because I believe it would have been a political statement just due to the fact that basically Gojira the first is a political movie. You know, it has a big message to it. You know, stop nuclear war.
It's stop a war, I think,
Yeah.
is its main message. But yeah, nuclear war, definitely.
Then you can see in these films, it's starting here, turning to like, not children fodder, you know, children, just to turn into a children's film, but turning to more of a children, they're catering to their child audience. He's toning down its political message. He's, King Kong's definitely on top of the Diet building, showing his superiority, but the destruction of it is very minimal. So he's kind of, this is all just in my head, but you know, relinquishing is okay. I'm going to make them a little less political. That's definitely what the producers wanted. They wanted something that appealed to a wider audience, to the younger kids. Talks about in Mushroom Clouds and Mushroom Men, there was the adult audience for Godzilla films, even at this point, was thinning out rapidly. So they needed to make them more and more desirable for kids. To have your kid go, you know, mom, take me to a Godzilla film. Like, I want to see this.
Yeah, I understand that they do that, and I kind of take umbrage in that notion, though, I gotta say. It's like, think about the original Jurassic Park, and were you one of those kids who watched Jurassic Park over and over again, like I was?
Yes.
Okay. That first Jurassic Park, not so much a kid's movie.
Terrifying. Yeah, that movie's scary.
And I'm not saying that because of the fear in it, but there's language. There's the main characters are adults. The two kids go through horrible crap.
Yes.
And the raptors are quite scary throughout the movie, right?
Yes. The only thing I can say about that film is it's like in a category of its own, Jurassic Park, just because it has like this special magic to it where like it's dinosaurs, but they treat the dinosaurs like real. Like, it's not, because any other film you're going to see as a kid with dinosaurs in it is going to be some sciencey whatever movie. Or just a
I would see a Jurassic Park as a sciencey movie. So
I'm talking about like a bland science, like something they'd show you in school. That's what I'm saying. So to see like dinosaurs in a movie, like action as a kid, yeah.
What I have to say about that is, then you watch Jurassic World. Now, which one's appealing to kids more?
I don't know. Like the original, I would say.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, see, now I thought it was obvious that Jurassic World was more appealing to kids.
For toy and merchandising, definitely the latter Jurassic World.
Yeah. See, my umbrage with that whole notion about making it more kid friendly is that the kids like to watch movies that they are kind of on the realm of not supposed to be watching.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, they want to watch Jurassic Park despite the fact that the raptors are scary. And honestly, they watch Jurassic Park so many times that the raptors are no longer scary anyway.
Yeah, because you know when they're going to do what they do.
And there's something really cool about dinosaurs eating people.
Oh, definitely.
And so, like, the idea that, oh, no, we have to make it kid-friendly. It's just, you know, it's stupid.
No,
it's a stupid idea.
Well, what I would like to say to that, and yes, I somewhat agree, is just that it's less complicated of a film. These films get less complicated. Like Gojira has meat to it. It's like it's got something to sink your teeth into. The characters, the cinematography, blah blah blah. It goes
you care.
Yeah. Yes, you care. It's a film, as you keep saying. And it has
some like interesting political depths that you can explore.
So later on in this run of the Godzilla films,
it has things in there that kids would not understand.
Yes, that's what I'm meaning. Yep. Yeah. They're made simpler, but yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that notion, I hate that notion. And the other notion that they have to put, this was in the Ultimate Final Fantasy podcast, and I'm sorry for those who listen to both shows. they decided to change the main character of one of the Final Fantasy games to be a kid character, and instead of an adult character, they were going to have like a 40-something-year-old be the main character. Actually, 30-something. Like for the Final Fantasy games, that's an old character.
Yeah,
and they decided because their demographic was teenagers or younger teenagers that they needed to have younger teenagers be the main characters. Now, I'm looking back at the movies that I watched as a kid, the movies I really loved as a kid, and how many of those movies had kids as the main character versus had adults as the main character.
Man, the only movies that are coming to my mind literally just off the top of my head, with no preparation to this question, are like the Power Rangers movie. I watched that so many times, and those are at least, they were older than me. I was like a kid, and I viewed them as like these old high school kids, so old enough that they were a lot older than me, Yeah. So in other words, I'm agreeing with your point.
I admit they're not. You're probably not going to get the kids to watch Lincoln. But then,
very political movie.
But then at the same time, I kind of hated the notion as a kid, and I kind of hate it now, the notion that
that you're being catered to.
That I'm being catered to. Yeah. Like the movie E.T. stars children. I think I hated that movie when I was a kid. I love it now. Hated it then, and I think I hated it then because it was, to me as a kid, I was an idiot kid, obviously, because I hated the wonderful movie called E.T. I think it bugged me because it was like about kids. Like I didn't like that.
The only movie that I can think of that I enjoyed as a kid, where the kid is the main character, that I didn't feel, kind of like talked down to or whatever. You ever see Indie in the Cupboard? Did you ever see that movie?
No, I've never seen that.
Okay. It was a really good one, but it was like slightly darker, and you are, a kid. Do you think it makes any difference if it's an animated movie? I'm talking like, oh my goodness.
I watched Lion King over and over again.
Yeah.
It was about people killing fathers and coming back as an adult.
The Bookkeeper, the Page Master. You ever watched that?
I think I saw that once.
Okay.
You're reaching deep. You're going deep into that stuff, Drew. But you know what? I liked these movies, but honestly, like the little kid characters they were annoying to me as a kid in these Godzilla movies.
Gotcha.
And I wanted to see the adult characters.
And now we're delving deeper into your hatred for Son of Godzilla, where the main character
is a fucking kid.
Is a kid.
Sorry for the language. Of course, I said the F word last time, but
he's a child, and it all takes place in his head. It doesn't actually. Son of Godzilla. Again, correct us if we're wrong. We're gonna watch it again, but according to my memory, it's not a real Godzilla film because it all plays out in his imagination.
I think adults are just far more interesting cinematically, and I think they have always been that way. In my mind, I mean, I can't speak for you, Drew, and I can't speak for everyone else, but
no, but I would agree, just because there isn't, so for say, especially for a child being the main character, but definitely like a teenager, they're not developed enough as like a human being, like haven't been on this earth long enough to be of that much interest to like hold weight to a film for a while.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something cool about the swearing. There's something cool about the sexiness if there's not sex in the movie, which, I guess it depends on your parents, but my parents definitely did not let me watch
I was definitely
movies with sex in it. They let me watch plenty of violent movies.
I know, which I look back and I'm like, wow, I watched, Jurassic Park, I guess.
Yeah.
They didn't see it as scary, though. I don't know. And these Godzilla films, of course not. They just would laugh at it, but...
Yeah. I don't know. Are you more okay, like, if you had a kid? These are kiddie movies, and I think I would let my kids watch any of the Godzilla movies.
Yeah, literally.
Including that first one. But I don't think they would have any interest in it for a while. Subtitled movie with people dying. I don't think so.
Oh yeah, you'd have to skip past a lot of the beginning to hold a child's interest in the first Godzilla.
Now there are tons of different types of parents out there, and neither of us are a parent that I know of.
Nope.
That I know of.
sound of despair right
I would
there.
actually be very pissed if I were the father. Like, what the fuck? No. God, okay, I shouldn't have even thought of that, because that will haunt you for a little bit. Like, am I? I mean, I haven't
have a hard time sleeping
seen her
tonight.
for a few years. Maybe there was a reason we. Just thinking about girlfriend's past. Anyway,
Joe Jr.
Well, I assume you'd let your kids watch this movie, if not encourage it.
Well, these ones definitely.
Would you? Now, my parents stopped me from watching sex, and were pretty okay with violence, although not extreme violence. How are you parents on restrictions, if any?
They were definitely stricter than my friends' parents, but when I look back and I think like another one that just off the top of my head, like Men in Black, the first one.
Oh, I watched that. So often.
Oh yeah, exactly. But that's a pretty violent, scary film. I just remember it being terrifying with the bug that takes over the farmer and is inside the skin. You remember that?
Yeah, I do, but I was not scared of that movie.
Oof.
The movie I was scared about the most was Labyrinth, which is a
Wait
kid's
a
movie.
second. You were scared of Labyrinth?
I think
Is it just the David
I
Bowie
was scared of
character is
Labyrinth.
creepy?
I think the two movies that scared me the most as a kid, probably Labyrinth and The Mummy.
Oh, I wasn't allowed
The
to
Mummy
watch
remake.
The Mummy, but
Well, that had the
for some reason
the little scarab bugs going into the skin, and that
exact
scared the
reason.
shit out of me.
Yeah.
There's the rape scene with King Kong.
And immediately afterward, Godzilla has to give him that "just do it."
It's just
Should've done
do it. You should make your dreams come true. Would you restrict your kids' viewing of
Upon watch,
assuming you had kids?
not now. Watching Jurassic World, I was a little like I just had that thought in my mind for some reason. Like, would I allow my kids to watch this? So you've seen Jurassic World.
Yes, I have.
You remember when the pterodactyls or whatever flying dinosaur it is, they like attack all the people? It was at that point when I was like, oh, that's a little much. It's like they're coming down and it's very ambiguous. There's obviously no blood, obviously not showing anybody dying, but they're like knocking people down and you know what's happening. The other thing was in the second Jurassic Park movie. That one was like borderline for my parents. I think they made us skip the beginning or something, but where the little girl gets like eaten by the little dinosaurs.
They don't get eaten. It's a cutaway, but yeah, I know what you're talking
about. Because the mom like turns around, she's looking for her daughter frantically, runs over, like
in the book, the kid survives.
Screaming. Oh, there's a second book.
Yeah,
like
there
a
is.
follow. And does the movie follow it very well?
Not very well.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Not very well. Not very well at all. I actually don't really care much for the second book. It's one of the few Michael Crichton books I don't really care for.
I have to point out really quick as we're going on in this discussion, but King Kong knocks himself out.
Do it. Sorry.
King Kong knocks himself out.
He does.
He's doing some flips. This I
think in the Japanese version there wasn't really a sound there, and they added that sound for the American version when he hits his head, by the way.
Yeah, but Godzilla's doing all these like rolls and like weaves and dodges around Godzilla, and then he knocks himself out. But he's faking it. Oh, yeah, he was faking it the whole time. Godzilla's burying King Kong
his poop.
like a cat. Just kicking all this stuff, but then King Kong's getting ready for it, waiting for the tail. He's getting hit in the crotch by that tail. King Kong is getting whapped in the crotch.
There's a little bit awkward cutting there.
Here we go. Oh, no. I thought it was going to do the drop kick. Yes. Okay.
That's a good stop motion moment.
Oh, yeah. These two moves make this viewing of King Kong versus Godzilla totally worth it over and over and over for me. I would watch it over and over for
the Tom Cruise kick and the flip.
Oh yeah,
definitely. And I think they re-edited the flip later on in this one because the flip's earlier in the Japanese. Am I right?
We felt that way when we were watching this American version. We were almost scared that they.
Yeah, we thought we cut it when they cut it out.
We're like, no,
I remember that
they cut out like the coolest moment of King Kong flipping Godzilla over. It's so satisfying seeing that over and over. If I were to watch that as like a Vine or like a GIF just happening over and over, I would just feel so satisfied.
You would just be there for 6 hours.
I would. King Kong just flipping Godzilla.
So what would you allow your kids to watch, you think, without having children? Just spitballing.
It wouldn't be reckless abandon. You know what? That is an interesting question for me, like for movies I like, because I love slasher films. I love like The Thing, John Carpenter, just early. Oh man, I would like look so forward to the day when I could watch those films with my kids. The thing that I know though is that at about 16 or 17 is when I was becoming really curious about, watching those films. But really, it wasn't until like, and I'm not talking about violence, but like sex and all that stuff, until even like now, so in my early 20s, when I feel developed enough to not differentiate reality from fiction, I'm not that dumb, but feel responsible enough to view it for what it is, that I don't have to like be as affected by it, because it's a film. It's people making their own choices, whether that was like real or not in the film, which it's not, but it's people being people. I don't have to be that way. You just not being impressionable, but wanting to develop yourself as a person and like thinking, as a teenager, what am I going to become?
There's a flip.
Oh, flip. No, you're fine.
Yeah, they did.
I had to watch that. It would be tough because I would look forward to the day. I'd definitely watch Night of the Living Dead with them. I'd force them to watch that film. I love that
Night of the
film.
Living Dead at probably about 14.
Oh yeah, and I mean it's black and white. It's old, but
yeah, that was my mom's thing. Like I could watch anything if it was in black and white.
Watching very early, like risque,
like 1920. There's nudity in the first movie that ever won Best Picture, Wings. That was just pre-censorship.
Yeah,
there's some nudity in it.
For college, I was watching and I'm not in college.
I love nudity. Let's be clear here. It's my favorite thing in all movies.
So I was watching this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde film that was, if you look back in the black and white like era of films, when it was just black and white, there were a lot of versions of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The one that I was watching was just barely pre-censorship. So she's kind of alluring this whore is luring like Dr. Jekyll away.
She's an
from
actress. No, I'm just kidding.
Luring him away from his actual love, trying to stray him wayward. But like she gets pretty suggestive, like showing some skin and doing some motions and talking about stuff, and I'm like, what? It made me really figure, like I had to like look into censorship when it started and everything, because all I'm saying is black and white, you can still get some waka waka.
Yeah, old black and white. But yes, true. So and some 60s sort of iffy type of movies.
You asked me the question. What's your answer with your kids?
I don't have an answer. I was just asking you. I'm always wondering because like I didn't watch extreme violence, but I still watch violence, and I'm not a violent person. I think I've gotten in 2 fights in my life. So I don't really believe in the whole violence affects kids, but maybe it just didn't affect me, and maybe it could affect a kid. Like if you have him watch something violent and he's extremely impressionable.
Yeah, extremely.
Maybe he could be. Maybe he could seek or pattern violence, but I don't really believe in that. However,
I don't believe in that
sex, I have a feeling like. I know I've heard a lot of like really liberal hippie parents always go, yeah, well, don't show them the violent stuff because that's really bad. But I don't care about tits. Like to me, like if I were an 11-year-old boy and I had all the tits in the world, would I ever leave?
Wait, leave what?
Leave the TV screen. I would be in a constant.
The constant glow of the television.
Not so much a glow, but like a dazed, kind of grayed out look on my face. Is like dopamined up all day. I don't think that I don't know. I don't know if that much access to nudity is good for a young man.
No.
As a young man saying it. Now, most of those people that like allow their kids, I always hear it from women, so I feel like women don't understand just how horny
guys
an 11 to 13-year-old boy is.
Your testosterone
or 11
is
to
taking over your mind.
So, you know.
So we'll have to mention really quick. So this was a good tangent. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
They like congratulate King Kong at the end of this film.
They do.
They're like, we feel to applaud King Kong.
I don't know what his exact words are, but it's really stupid. I got two more things of fact here that I got to share.
Do it. Do it.
In making of Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest, apparently they gave the special effects crew instructions to watch the octopus scene in order to get the Kraken right.
Of this film?
Yeah.
Why didn't they just have them watch like octopuses?
I don't know, but that's what it says here.
Wow, they must have held A.G. Tsuburaya in high regard.
Yeah, maybe. Another thing is apparently, so Ishiro Honda prepared an edited version of the movie for a kids festival, and he re-edited this movie, King Kong vs. Godzilla, in the Japanese version of it.
Okay.
And unfortunately, it was he had edited the original negative, and so the highest quality source for the cut footage was completely lost. It was burned up. And so apparently the only existing footage is 16 millimeter, and it's in really bad condition. So of the stuff he cut. So the Japanese version we watched last week is actually, I think, what was it, 20 minutes? 24 minutes shorter than it's supposed to be. And
wow, because this is already an hour and a half long film. So
it says that some re-releases have the integrated 16 millimeter deleted scenes.
That's definitely not the version we've seen.
I'm not sure. Well, I'm pretty sure it's not the version we've seen, but we might have. So that's kind of sad. Like 24 minutes. Oh, Ishiro Honda, way to go.
If that was 24 minutes of good character development, side story with the people or main characters, I would be a little sad. If it was 24 minutes of lost footage of fight scenes, I would be fury. I would be like, Ishiro Honda, come on, man.
But it might be in there. I mean, it'd be hard to tell, though. Like, there's differences in the negative sizes, so you would see it very well. Unfortunately, we watched a really bad print last week with the DVD version, but
we're going to be looking up Showa Video, which was recommended to us by a commenter, Gino, straight out of Super Mario RPG. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think. Well, we got to figure out what movie we're watching next week, aren't we going to do?
Yes, it's up in the air.
Because it might be Godzilla vs. Mothra, but then again, it might just be Mothra.
Mothra is a standalone film.
It depends on how easy it is to get a hold of.
We're actually going to be looking that up at this moment.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys next week. Get on iTunes, and perhaps we'll send you a little something in like 4 weeks.
Yeah, just look up the action figure. You'll enjoy it. Godzilla 1954.
Damn straight. You can find me, by the way, let's do some plugs here. You can go to GodzillaPodcast.com. There is going to be some website maintenance. All of our shows might be put onto one website, but even if you go to GodzillaPodcast.com and there's nothing there, I mean, if there is nothing there, it'll just redirect you to the right site because I'll put a redirect on it.
Yes, and then also, if that is down for maintenance or however, it's the Godzilla Podcast on iTunes and, the Godzilla Podcast on any of your other places where you get your podcast from.
Podcatcher sources, except for Stitcher, because I hate Stitcher. I refuse to give them another podcast of mine.
Gotcha.
They ruin things. You can find me at Joseph DeGollier. That's Josephdegolyer. And Drew.
At Drew Daybell, DrewDaybell. BELL, or at Gojira Jaeger.
Okay, let's end it with like a little news bulletin.
I love how we both did that.